Here we go. Welcome back. Welcome back to the Classroom of a CEO and the Vocal Mind, where we spend time talking about relevant issues with our young people today and focusing on the education that we're offering them. Thank you, Courtney, once again for being with me. It's been forever since we've
I
had a
know.
chat, and it's
I know.
wonderful to reconnect.
I know.
Those summer holidays have kept us apart, but we're back in the game.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad to be here. I like chatting with you. Our conversations are really closely aligned and like really real. So I love that.
I feel the same, and I know that they impact a lot of people in the comments that I get when I post our chats. So
Yeah.
thank you for all that you offer. Today, we're once again circling back to autonomy and helping parents and teachers to enable young people to grow in their own independence and in how they feel they want to develop by using really skilled methods of enabling autonomy for our young people. You want to open a little bit with some thoughts or where our brains are going, or shall I?
Sure. Go ahead if you.
So just before we pressed record, Courtney and I were discussing what line of conversation we wanted to focus on. And we were just thinking about all that's going on in the world right now and how many questions our young people are having, and maybe how many opinions they're forming or not knowing how to form. And what is our job as adults and parents in all of this? Kind of going back to school and how they're feeling about that, looking at what's going on in the news and where they feel that their day to day is aligning with these big issues that are happening in the world, whether it's the political changes or wars or turbulence. And we were just kind of thinking how important it would be to focus on that to support our teenagers during this turbulent time.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what kind of sparked it for me is I was doing some reading this last weekend and just about like teen development and family structures and things like that. And it highlighted something that I knew, but you know how when you read something and it gives it to you in a different light, and you're like, it's kind of a light bulb moment. And that's what it was for me, where so I was reading this kind of focused study on how adolescents are really building those cognitive pathways. We know that their brains are reforming and they really start to become aware not only of themselves but what's happening around them. There's this shift that's supposed to be happening, right, from this like little kid who's just family centered and self-centered to all of a sudden their world is broadening. And in
Yes.
that, there's so many questions, just like you said. I mean, they're just wide eyed at the world because they're noticing these things that they never noticed before. In
That's
their
right.
family, in their friend groups, in their school, in education, in society, you know what I mean? It can be kind of overwhelming because, and this, I love when takes it back to developmentally appropriate stages. I always feel like
Mhm.
it gives me a relief of like, oh, this is what they're supposed to be doing. Okay. Because like
Yes.
having teens or working with teens, and when there is questions or pushback or these things that are uncomfortable for adults, it's nice to keep in mind, like, oh, no, this is exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So I found it interesting in the line that they highlighted. It's if adults can take accountability and kind of give words to what our teens are noticing, they actually,
Mhm.
it brings a sense of security and that secure attachment, which we love, and that's amazing. But it also helps them not build and develop in resentment. And I thought that was really fascinating because if we as adults refuse to acknowledge or address the things that they're seeing, then they actually build resentment against us because we haven't had that open communication. And I don't know. I loved that moment because it was like, it didn't say we have to be the best. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to say everything right. It didn't say any of that. It just said acknowledge what they're noticing, what they're going through, what
Yeah.
their questions are. And to me, that felt
Mhm.
like permission and a weight off that I don't have to have the answers. I just have to be in the conversation with them while they are verbally processing, while they're figuring it out, while they're questioning. our
Yeah.
family system and who they are and who they want to be. I don't know. That was really helpful for me.
That's beautiful. It's really true. I mean, we've talked before about
Yeah.
really helping young people by labeling feelings or labeling things they might be going through and giving them language around all of that. And I think it's similar to what you're saying, just giving them that space and opportunity, really listening, and then maybe re-articulating what they're trying to say if they're perhaps even unclear, but not in any way using it at that point as a I need to teach you my opinion moment.
Right.
Because often I think that's when we can very easily slip into, well, this is how our family looks at,
Yeah.
this type of situation, or these are our beliefs, etc.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important at this point for us to step right back and allow them to have that thinking space, especially with the rise of TikTok now becoming much more of a political platform. And before it was a space that kids hung out on, right? So they're very comfortable with this TikTok world.
Yeah.
But now it's become a political platform, and everyone from Donald Trump to the Chinese president or whatever are using TikTok as a platform to talk about these political issues or share their opinions. So kids are seeing it all the time. Whereas before in school, we would feed them, okay, this is what's happening, and
Right.
this is how we're framing it, and this is what you can know. But now they're getting it from all angles. So their questions are just going to be 100-fold.
Yeah. It's true.
And it really is important what you're saying, just allow that space for conversation, allow them to talk it through, and then say, oh, from what I'm hearing, you think this, or you're leaning more towards this opinion. How
Right.
does that make you feel? How is that in comparison to what you've learned growing up, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah.
I think we can really move away from dogmatism and bias in
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah. Well, and because really, like, I mean, we all know that there's dysfunction in the world that's happening, right? Or pain or hurt or whatever you want to call it. But kids have a specific lens in that they're seeing it a little bit from the outside in,
That's
where
right.
adults might be a little bit more comfortable. Even I always think more of our family system, even if, like, I don't know, so and so in our family is an alcoholic, or so and so in our family is a constant liar. Like, our family systems can somewhat be comfortable with that's how our family behaves, like you were saying. But then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
our little kids are like that too. They just think, oh, this is our family. We love our family, and they do. And then teen years, it's like they start to notice those things. So I think it's the same for society, thinking our city is wonderful, our government and everything. And then they start to notice these little nuances of, wow, that's,
Yes,
whatever you want to label it, not functioning well, that's not care, whatever. Um, and really, it's for the purpose of they eventually have to build their belief system because they are going to be in our position in 15, 20 years, right? So they're
that's exactly
supposed to
right.
be looking at all of this stuff and with a blank slate saying, do I want my family to function that way? Do I want society to function this way? Do you know what I mean? Like, where can we bring
Yeah,
change, healing,
that's right.
different dynamics? And I think that if we embrace that, because before
That's right.
adults were really defensive, like you said, on nope, this is how we believe, this is how we function. We don't, we tiptoe around Uncle Dave that does this. And, it can be something as small as that, where our teens
Yes,
are built to push back and to kind of shine the flashlight and be like, hey, I don't think this is working well. And so we as an
that's right.
adult can squash that and say,
Yeah. And our
like,
young people come up with so many questions almost innocently, like you're saying, right? Because they're
yeah,
looking at it from that different lens. And
yeah,
they don't have history of, this is how we've always done it. It's a new thing for them. They're just old enough to understand some of the concepts,
yeah,
not all, but some. And
yeah,
they're going to start to make their own opinion.
yeah.
Hmm.
Why do we, yeah,
Yeah,
they need that space, at least within themselves, to start questioning, is this what I want for my future? Right? Because that's
that's right.
really where decisions get to be made collectively with a partner in the family that you build, or collectively with how much you're involved in society and education and government. This is where they really get to own that, not just their sense of autonomy, but like their belonging and place in the world, in exploring these questions, being able to say, like, I don't know if I agree with that, and
That's
having
right.
that be their base statement, because that's an undeveloped thought, right? So our teens, like, so much we squash the little thoughts or ideas that they have, because what if it takes them 8 years to develop this? And we never really
Yes.
give them the space to say, I don't like this, but that I don't really know what I'm going to do about it, right? Because that takes
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. I have a similar situation all the time with my teenagers for the last 5, 6 years.
Yeah,
Growing up in London, they see things from a certain vantage point that maybe is even foreign to me.
yeah,
And I've had to learn to shut up a little bit and step back and do a lot more active listening and hear where they're coming from, even if I really don't agree with their point of view. And it doesn't mean that they're bad people. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad person. It's just we have different viewpoints, and allowing them to come up with their own belief set, as you said, or their value set.
yeah,
Albeit, sure, I will give them my perspective, but never in like, you're wrong. Shh, be quiet. Don't think that way. This is how we think, because that's where we lock into closed-mindedness, and we are teaching closed-mindedness when actually, if we allow them to see something from a different angle, or even bite our tongue a little and say, that's an interesting viewpoint.
sure.
And why do you think it's like that? And how does that affect you?
Yeah,
And I think there's a lot of, I don't know, how should we say it, if this is, necessarily a blanket statement, but there's a lot of demonizing around the woke trends, and how people look at things in regard to how someone identifies, or how they're going to say that they're having mental health problems, etc. And those of us who are from different generations may look at it completely different. And
yeah,
I've had to do a lot of tongue biting over the years and just be like, okay, well, let me understand that a little bit more from how you're seeing it.
yeah.
And as the years have gone on, they do say, remember, biologically, the brain isn't really fully formed at adult level till 25, 26.
Right.
And I've seen my kids go through the journey of, I don't agree with what mom thinks, or we think very differently, or mom's just of an older generation. She doesn't get the new trends. To
Yeah,
then, as the years go on, they're much more balanced. Okay, well, I do see why I believed that. And these elements I am going to keep.
yeah,
But these ones, I think maybe I was not as clear on certain things, or I look at it differently now.
yeah,
So, like you said, it could take up to 8 years for them to fully,
yeah,
crystallize their own beliefs or opinions.
yeah.
And that's not wrong. But
Mm-mm.
I believe that if we immediately shut it down, or we say that they're not in the right place in their thinking process, or that's not how we do things,
Yeah,
we just keep small-mindedness at the forefront, rather than, like we're talking about, around that autonomy of growth
yeah,
and allowing things to evolve and germinate and develop.
yeah, yeah. I think it's really important. Well, and I think what you're saying is like, which is this is a secure attachment, which is we're family no matter what. Like that security comes
That's
not
right.
from
Yes.
we believe the same exact thing and we live the same exact way.
That's
The
right.
security comes from
Mhm.
you're my kid, you're my child, you're my spouse, and we're a family and we love each other while we
Yeah.
get to explore our own unique identities and thought processes and beliefs, and which I don't know, I
Yeah.
would say that that's the closest we could probably get to like a healthy family system, right? Because healthy doesn't mean without problems or without miscommunications or different belief. It just means,
Differences. Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
you're talking about these things and you're functioning in that, relation to each other in a healthy way.
That's right. It's so important. How supported will children feel if they know that their parents are just open like that, And, yes, there can be some really healthy debates. Maybe it can even get a little colorful one evening, where there's somebody that really feels strongly about something else, but there's a real safe space to say, it doesn't matter if someone has a really strong opinion, they're still allowed to share it. Their opinion is equally as valuable as everyone else's around the table. And this is a safe space to grow up in that way, of understanding and learning. I, in fact, just not long ago had to have that same conversation with my daughter. We were talking about something, and, I had to remind us, remember, all of our opinions are equally as valuable here. And teenagers and young people, they just need that reminder. But also, like you said, it immediately puts that safe space.
Yeah,
And me as the mom, I'm not going to say, well, because I'm the mom, you don't get to have your opinion, you have to share mine. because then we're stripping away autonomy from them,
Yep.
which goes back to your beautiful quote that you launched the podcast with. It's lovely. That really real importance for us to give that space for them to grow into their own opinions. And I think there's a lot to say too around helping them get back into yet a new school year. There's a lot of challenges right now with young people at the start of the school year, and that sort of, oh, I don't want to go. What's the point? Everything we learn is, useless. And maybe we feel like as good parents, we need to shut it down, or we need to say, no, no, come on, we're going to just do this, have another good school year. But actually allowing them that time to kind of go through their own figuring out of how they're going to commit to their next year. I think that's a huge one, at least for some of the kids I've been working with.
Yeah, for sure. And helping them see that big picture. Because I mean, we are older, we have lived through eighth grade and high school and college and all, the things past that. And I remember thinking in middle school, like, what's the point of this? Where people just adults just tell us what to do and I can't, and going down that spiral. And that's part of the deconstructing of noticing, why does this matter? And again, they get there, but helping them see the big picture of like you as an individual growing and learning is the point of it all, right? Is
That's right.
to learn, like equipping you for your future is the point of why you're here.
That's right. And
Right.
you and me both agree very strongly that there's a lot that needs to change, and there is a lot that's perhaps, not worth their time. But for what the kids are needing to kind of grow into learning, and the space we want to give them is around, well, I don't always get a choice, and I can't change the government right now, and this is my lot in life. So how am I going to make the best of it?
Yeah.
And, by giving them the space and the listening time and the labeling of their emotions and the validating of what they're going through, but then, reminding them, what's the bigger picture for you? How do you think this is going to benefit you to be a better person? What are some of the skills that, we might learn together this year? Whether it's doing the things you don't really want to do, because guess what? All through life, you're going to have to,
Yeah.
or, making friends with those kids that made it hard for you last year, or whatever, and leadership skills that they might take away from the year. But again, it's the same principle we were talking about in regard to social issues, giving them kind of backing up a little, letting them vent, letting them say their opinion, and then supporting them to come to the right way, or something that they can feel happy with.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think validation is key there because you're right. If we go in and we try to shut down what they're feeling, that is never helpful for anyone. But it is
Yeah.
hard as a parent, I will say. And even as like a teacher, it's I think more hard as a parent to hear your kids say, I hate school, I don't want to go, but and you're in that like kind of battle. And we do, so I think the invitation there is like we want to run in and fix it for them and make it all better for
Yeah.
them. And that's the thing where we need to step back again and just be okay with listening that they don't want to go, with whilst keeping that firm boundary of like, well, you're going, right? Because there's like a nuance there. They can,
Yeah.
saying, I don't want to go to school today, I hate, and they're venting and all of this stuff. And if we can validate, man, that sounds really tough. I get that you hate school.
Yeah.
I know that this is so hard for you. You can even bring in some personal. So and so made your hard last year, blah, blah. It's just pouring out that validation so they know like this is real. I can really hate this. And then I always think of like the
Yeah.
opposite, the very next step is, but you're also going. So
That's it.
you know what I mean? Like, because it's not one or the other.
Yeah.
It's not just like you hate this and we're not coddling and saying, well, okay, well, maybe you don't have to go or you don't,
Sit at home all
whatever.
day or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
But we're also not rushing to, well, get over it. You're going to be fine, go to
Shut down
school.
their
Like, we
feelings.
know
Yeah.
that they're going to be fine and they're going to go, and like move on, but they don't. So I think in that nuance of validating, yet holding firm, I love you so much. Let's get up and get ready. Like, and my approach is always like, how can you help yourself, like you said, through those hard things that you don't want to do? Like, I've found ways to motivate myself that are personal to me, even if it's like getting my favorite drink at the grocery store, you know what I mean? And having that for my day, like to get through a hard day. So I try to tell her those things too. It's like, well, how can you keep yourself going, like taking care of yourself in a situation that you have to go show up for? What does that look like? And I've noticed that she's started to figure those things out on her own. So she'll do things like the night before school just to like, I don't know, paint her nails or like make herself feel good. And like she's starting to like, I don't know what it take ownership kind of those things. So it's
Yes.
not me walking up to her and saying, well, you have to do this checklist to take care of yourself. It's her really getting to know herself and saying, this is what keeps me going in this horrible season that I hate, right? Which we do all need because we're really asking like, how do you build resilience and how do you thrive?
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, how
Yeah.
do you thrive?
It's coping skills. It's
Like,
these leadership skills and
yeah,
these as I call them CEO skills. Yes, we're continually reaffirming to them, I'm not going to put you under pressure if you're doing your best and your grades aren't at the top. I
yeah.
don't actually care so much about that. Yes, we're going to do our best, we're going to try, but you have till the end of your life to get an A if you want. What I want from you is for you to regulate and feel well in yourself and to do the best you can in that day to have the most successful day and the happiest day that you can. And a lot of that responsibility will lie on you, darling, even though I know it's tough, it's tricky, and I've used examples to my kids of my own experiences, whether it was work or project I was doing. It was really tough. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to do that, but it was something I had to do and I had to get through it. And the skills I used were X, Y, and Z. Like you said, get your favorite drink in the morning, or, you know, I would have my kids knew I had my angry music on in the car in the night, like my head banging music so that I could do my little regulation. So, whatever strategies it is, and that's where we're teaching them the zones of regulation, right? That strategy, which is so beautifully put. You're in your blue, your yellow, your green, your red. And where are you at right now? And what do I need to do to re-regulate? And it doesn't mean I'm a failure. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person at school. Yes, school needs to change, but it doesn't mean that every day is shit. I can cope, I can moderate, I can regulate myself in order to get through the stuff I need to get through. And those are the skills that will last them for forever,
Oh, yeah.
not the A grade in literature or whatever.
Yeah, I can find the beauty in my day. I can enjoy a relationship that I have. It's all those things that we really miss out on if we just stay in the lens of I hate this, begrudgingly going
Right.
through the day. It's like, yeah. But
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
know if you think about this too. This you and I might differ. Let me know. But and I want to say this is probably for our older kids, like 21 to 26 or something, because when I work with clients too, I work with that self empowerment piece. So I agree with everything we're saying. I also think there's a caveat of if you hate your life, like what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Right? In the sense of like
Yeah.
building a life that you love and create. That doesn't mean there isn't things that we don't have to do, right? But
100%.
I love the empowerment piece of instead of staying in a place, because in school they don't really have a choice so much. But the older they get, it's like you don't necessarily have to stay in a job or an industry or a relationship or things that are really harmful or detrimental or horrible when you could make steps to like figuring out,
Change.
yeah, what kind of life would I really enjoy living? And then the work ethic of I'm going to go build that so that, you know what I mean? Like, I love that little piece
100%.
too, because it's like, I don't have to just stay doing everything I hate. I see people do that. Like, I hate my job so much and I'm going to stay here for 20 years. And I think that's silly too, because there's something that you would bring to the world if you allowed yourself to step into that like entrepreneurial place or creative place or thing that lights you up inside. Like we might miss out on
Yeah.
that if you only stay in this horrible place trying to make it work.
100%. I agree with every word of that. And I do believe they go hand in hand with what we're saying. And in my examples of helping kids just to make the best of the day wasn't meaning just to teach them to keep coping with
Yeah.
it. But when you can't leave, or it's something that actually I just have to get through these really hard steps, say entrepreneurism, and then at the end of that, it's going to be the beauty that I've worked towards. We're teaching grit, we're teaching stick-to-itiveness, but also make your decision of what you want to do so that you can feel in the best place and leave something that is not healthy for you. And it's a difficult one to teach in school because they would be like, well, if it's not healthy, I don't feel it's healthy for me. I need to leave school. So
Yeah,
there's that,
it's probably
there's
for
that
older.
balance
Yeah,
there.
it's probably for because it's very nuanced there. Younger brains probably can't reach that
I
level.
mean, I'm also very much of the mindset, though, that if school is not meeting your needs, and if you have the support of your parents and you can,
Yeah,
there are a lot of other options
for
too.
sure.
So it's just around, it goes back to that listening, right? Us as parents stepping back and having that real deep listening with our young people and seeing what is it here we need to help, to teach, to enable, so that we can get the best start in life for them.
And
But yeah, that's a challenge. And I think
yeah, permission as a
that's a podcast for another day.
parent. Yeah, there's a lot of permission as a parent to know what's best for your own family. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like seek wisdom
Yes.
and listen to advice and all of these nuances, but then also know your child and have that conversation with your child and to ultimately figure it out for your family system and what it looks like.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, what a lot we've talked about, but I believe that we are coming to the end of our time slot. And yeah, I just, as always, want to leave with a summary of some takeaways. And I think the biggest one for me today was giving language and the space for them to talk through what they're going through, explore their feelings and what they're observing
Yeah.
in the world today, or their opinions about things, and helping them to come up with their own belief set through labeling, through giving language towards it, but also giving that space for them to hold differences
Yeah.
or have a different way of looking at things. So that was one. So
Yeah.
that's a really big takeaway. Anything else that I missed that would be good to highlight
Oh,
before we close?
yeah, just highlights the like nurture and the guidance as our role.
Mm,
Yeah.
yes. Nurture and guidance and showcasing our own learning too and humility and all of that.
Um,
Wonderful. How empowering. Well, thank you,
yeah.
Courtney,
Always
for
love.
once again bringing so much depth and beautiful discussion topics. I know that it's going to benefit so many.
Yeah.
And thank you for listening, all of those listeners who joined us for the whole session. I hope that you found something very powerful from today. Please leave comments below, and we'd love to interact with all that you share. And if anyone hasn't told you today, you are beautiful and doing a great job as a parent, so don't forget it. And we'll see you next time.